James Bond.
For many Bond fans and film historians, Goldfinger is the 007 movie that had it all. A high-octane cocktail of action, lust, greed, and one of the world's greatest villains.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
The seventh 007 novel was published in England and America in 1959. Fleming got the idea for Goldfinger during an April 1956 stay at Enton Hall, a health spa in central England, where he met a gold broker who educated him on the trade in the world's most coveted metal. 3 years after the publication of Goldfinger came the surprise success of Dr. No, and later, From Russia with Love.
When we did Dr. No, I remember we all had very limited resources. The film was, I think, $900,000.
Producers Albert R. Broccoli and Harry Saltzman set a budget of $3 million for Goldfinger. To bring Bond number 3 in on time, the producers selected a seasoned pro, Guy Hamilton.
Guy was always going to be a director of Bond sooner or later. Then Guy came in and did that one. Some people think that's the best of all the Bonds.
Hamilton had something else, a relationship with the film's star, Sean Connery.
I'd known Sean long before he made Bonds. We had a little club called the Buxton that we used to meet each other. Goldfinger was a bit of a challenge because I began to sense that Bond was becoming a Superman and using the things that worked so wonderfully well in the 2 previous films. It was then not too difficult to have a target and know what we were trying to do.
Once again at the typewriter was Dr. No and From Russia with Love screenwriter Richard Maybaum, collaborating with Oscar-winning British screenwriter Paul Dane.
In Goldfinger, we decided to have a little mini-adventure at the start of it, which had nothing to do then with the story that followed.
It seemed to me that if we could do the pre-credit sequence, which is a wonderful piece of nonsense. I mean, where you can go swimming with a seagull on top of your head and you can unzip your suit and have a white tuxedo underneath. If that makes you laugh, let's all now, after the credit titles, go for a great big ride and have fun.
The guy that was originally cast to do it in his spare time was a cat burglar. So, which was all right, but unfortunately he was caught in the act the day before he had to shoot the scene. I got the part merely on the fact that I had, according to the makeup guy, high cheekbones, and I could be made up to look like a Mexican more than anybody else. They said, right, well, you're doing the fight. And I said, oh, what fight? As the fire hits the water, the flash bulbs go, the UV lamp comes on, and the steam comes out. Well, the force of the steam, the hose pipe wrapped itself around my leg, gave me a sort of a second-degree burn. And everybody thought it was down to my acting, see, but it wasn't. It was down to sheer pain, actually.
Other actors had their own challenges to face.
At the rehearsals, I was working at a desk and Bond comes in, and I got up to greet him. And Guy said, no, you don't take any notice of this man, you don't like him. And I thought, well, but this is Bond, this is James Bond, and I'm just an ordinary civil servant. I must admire him like everybody else does. And he says, no, of course you don't. He doesn't treat your gadgets with any respect at all.
Morning, Q.
Morning, 007. This way, please.
We're out busy this morning.
But there is one gadget the whole world comes to respect.
I was a sports car freak in those days, so I got rid of a lot of my inhibitions when it came to redesigning the Aston Martin.
When we came to do Goldfinger, there was a debate on what car to use, whether it should be the Bentley.
Where's my Bentley?
Oh, it's had its day, I'm afraid.
But it's never let me down.
M's orders, 007. You'll be using this Aston Martin DB5 with modifications.
I thought it was an elegant-looking car, and I remember in Switzerland driving it up and down there. Impressed a lot of people, and But I think that its setting in the story and in the film gave it a more unique quality than the car actually possessed.
The management of Aston Martins were very, very sceptical about us. And they said, well, what do you want to do with the car? I told them briefly, and they said, well, you won't do it. You won't get any more equipment in this car. It's absolutely loaded as it is. So I said, just give me a break. Let me do it. I'll prove you I can do it.
Aston Martin executives loaned the Goldfinger team the development prototype, DP216-1, destined to become a legend.
The first thing we're going to do, we're going to make a hole in the roof for the ejector seat. And I said, I will make the first hole, and I can remember it now, putting a hole through this lovely Aston Martin, my pride and joy.
Back in those days, we didn't have the electronic devices that we have nowadays, where we could have done things, made things work electronically now. In the old days, we had to do it by pneumatics, didn't we?
Obviously, couldn't go around with the real machine guns in the car, but for distant shots, we had the gas guns operating.
The rear lights that dropped down and the oil slick that came out of it was done for real, funnily enough, with a big container in the back of the car. To get the tank in there, the bulletproof shield had to be taken out and then, of course, put back after that shot for the bullet effect. So there was never a sort of a dull moment.
I was having a lot of trouble with parking tickets in London around that time, so my ambition was to have a revolving number plate, you know. So that was my contribution to the supercar.
The actual tyre slashing apparatus we didn't do on the car as such. All that touching was done actually in the studios. I built a rig on rails, built the sides of the car in fiberglass, both the Aston Martin and the Mustang.
Double blowout. I've never seen one of these before.
And what about the DB5's pièce de résistance?
I went home and I got a telephone call saying, would I go back to the studios next day? And I thought, oh, good, I got an extra bit in the film. And when I got there, they gave me this bit about the ejector seat.
If you take the top off, you'll find a little red button. Whatever you do, don't touch it.
No, why not?
Because you'll release this section of the roof and engage and fire the passenger ejector seat. Whoosh.
Ejector seat? You're joking.
And, of course, it gave me the chance of producing, I suppose, one of the most famous lines.
I never joke about my work, 007.
The chassis wouldn't have taken a proper ejector seat, and the guy next, the driver, would have got burnt anyhow. So I used compressed air on that and a lightweight dummy.
The whole thing works. I mean, it's just, it's a dream. It's your dream. Wouldn't it be fun to have a car like that?
All this gadgetry was created and installed in just 6 weeks. Other equipment was built into the car, but never used in the finished film, like front and rear overriders, good for ramming enemy vehicles. Bond's secret arsenal also included a weapons tray located underneath the driver's seat, a nail chamber that could spit out nasty triple-spike clusters, and a radio telephone hidden inside the driver's door paneling.
And what's really amusing, actually, is that there must be 50 around the world claiming to be the one, and people keep paying to see it.
Even Bond's Aston Martin proved no match for the movie's sublimely evil villain, Auric Goldfinger.
Oh, you're looking, Mr. Bond, at an industrial laser beam which emits a new and extraordinary light, not to be found in nature. Natural light, you see, being multicolored, widens and weakens as it travels from the source. Laser light, being of one color, never widens, never weakens. It can
Project a spot on the moon. Or at closer range, cut through solid metal. I will show you.
Gert Frobe, I'd seen him, or Cubby had seen him and showed him to me in a German film where he was playing a sort of child molester, and he was absolutely wonderful. Yes, he's the perfect Goldfinger. Does he speak English? Yeah, I've spoken to his agent, he speaks English. Gert Frobe arrived day one on the set. How do you do? I'm very happy to meet you. That was all right. Then I talked to him and I realized he didn't speak a word of English.
The very first scene I shot on the balcony with Gert. And Gert had to start the scene. And he said, Operation once I thought, oh my God, what was that? But his mouth stopped. So I thought, well, okay, I'll say my line.
I always remember Gert Frober, who was a dear sweet man. You know nothing, Mr. Bond. You know nothing.
Cubby and Harry, when they saw the first rushes, went bananas. They said, you can't understand a thing. I said, don't worry, because we're now going to dub him later.
Hamilton instructed Frobe to speak quickly, which aided actor Michael Collins, who provided the voice for Auric Goldfinger.
How do you do?
How do you do?
Guy knew exactly what he wanted and how he wanted it. He's one of those kind of people. Very, very contained director. Very, very cool. He's very much get in there and do it or else.
Hamilton definitely wanted Honor Blackman for the female lead, Pussy Galore.
There was hardly anybody else about that was as right for it as me, because at that point I was having a huge success in the Avengers and I was coming to the end of my 2-year stint. So since the character demanded a knowledge of judo and I was a hot property at that point, it seemed dead right that I should play it.
And there was no question of chemistry between Goldfinger's two stars.
I mean, he is, I think without doubt, the sexiest man I've ever met. He has a natural authority, charisma. He's very virile.
What would it take for you to see things my way?
A lot more than you've got.
How do you know?
I don't want to know.
Isn't it customary to grant a condemned man his last request?
You've asked for this.
It was very funny when we did the fight in it, so-called fight, because I had been used to doing judo in the studio on the cement. So they had banks and banks of straw and all sorts of things, and they said, will that be all right? Can you land on, will you be safe? And all. I mean, it was luxury for me, because I'd had such a terrible time in the studio with the cement floor, you know. So we had quite a lot of fun in The Hague, because we had to lie about for quite a long time.
Casting Odd Job proved to be no challenge at all.
I was watching one Saturday afternoon, there used to be wrestling, and there was Odd Job on television. Harold Zakata came on and everybody booed, and there was Odd Job. And Harold Zakata had been a serious athlete, had been the first Hawaiian to get a silver medal at the Olympics.
Harold was a monumentally strong but very genuine and gentle guy. And he gave me that chop behind the neck at the fridge. He put me on the floor. He wasn't quite used to the cinema technique of taking it to the wire and then stopping, you know. And some days I think I still have it from then.
He was a joy to work with and a very brave man, because in Fort Knox, when those fireworks go off at the end, he got badly burnt and he was hanging on there, and I didn't say cut because all the sparks were flying everywhere and it looked good to me. So finally a Harold thing, and then he'd really burnt his hands, but Guy, you didn't say cut, so I just hung on in there.
Rounding out Goldfinger's villains was Gish, the man with the nuclear key.
We're trapped. The bomb. I take the fuse out.
I was going to be in a stage play in London, and my agent suddenly said to me, by the way, I got you out of that play. I said, what do you mean you got me out? I was in a lot of trouble getting in. He said, I got you a part in the next James Bond film, Goldfinger, instead. I said, oh, that's fair enough.
Don't be a fool. You can be a hero. I'm not.
I was thrown over the railings, and there were some cardboard boxes and mattresses and things that I landed on the other side. But the actual fall was about 40-foot fall, I think. That was done by Bob Simmons.
Mellinger was also armed with a camera, which attracted Harry Saltzman's attention.
I was filming, which I shouldn't have done, I suppose. And I said to him, to make a joke of it, I said, I'm going to release mine before yours. And he wasn't very amused.
Although in Goldfinger for less than 5 minutes, Shirley Eaton made an unforgettable impression with audiences around the world.
It was a nice sensation, being painted all over with this fine brush.
On Pinewood's D stage, makeup artists gilded Shirley Eaton.
I was nervous and happy at the same time. And every now and again somebody would come in and pop their head around the door and say, how's she getting on, how's she getting on?
To avoid problems of skin suffocation, there was a doctor on the set throughout this sequence.
Guy Hamilton was extremely kind, and we got the shots done during one morning, which was really quite fast.
This is my bank. The gold depository at Fort Knox, gentlemen.
Mr. Big, somebody who wants all the gold in the world and is prepared to get some gangsters and gas everybody. I mean, if you believe that, monkeys can fly. So you've got to take it with a wonderful pinch of salt.
The star of Goldfinger in terms of settings was supposed to be Fort Knox. We had a friend of Cubby Broccoli, who was called Colonel Rouchon, who had great influence with the American authorities. So I was whisked off to Kentucky and was allowed to fly over Fort Knox and to look at it from the outside, but I wasn't allowed to go anywhere really near it because it was so protected, and there were sort of loudspeakers all over the place saying, you are now trespassing, don't approach any, and there were also people with machine guns.
At that time it was discussed that perhaps Fort Knox would be in Portugal, but we eventually put it on the back lot at Pinewood. Suddenly bulldozers started to appear, they started bulldozing roads, laying concrete, and I thought, oh my God.
Originally, the final battle was to take place at the gates of the gold depository, but Cubby Broccoli insisted that the villain enter the world's most secure building. Richard Maybaum and Ken Adam agreed. Others argued that no one knew what the inside of Fort Knox looked like.
I suppose that it's their underground vaults, and it's just bars of gold that go on trolleys, or rather like the Bank of England.
Peter Lamont's realistic blueprints were not enough for Broccoli. He declared, I want to see a cathedral of gold.
And from there, Ken, designed his huge set with the elevator that covered a stage, and we made these huge heaps of gold.
And interestingly enough, we did get a letter from the controller or whatever she was, the lady who ran Fort Knox, and complimenting our art director on his imagination, because very few people have ever seen the interior of Fort Knox.
Ken Adams's vision didn't stop at recreating Fort Knox. Another rich cinematic highlight is Goldfinger's rumpus room, where he entertains business associates.
They closed up the fire.
The Laser Room, the site of the most famous near-castration in screen history. Built on Pinewood's E stage, Sean Connery spent a very uncomfortable 3 days here in March 1964.
Well, it didn't surprise me because he took quite a pleasure in finding ways to make it difficult for me.
They brought a real laser in, which looked great, a very pencil-thin line. As soon as you turn all the studio lights on, it disappeared. So suddenly we're faced with John Steers made up this fake one, and we optically put the stuff on afterwards.
We had to pre-cut the area which was going to melt, then very carefully fill the whole lot in with solder, and then, of course, make the top finish again to look like gold. I was underneath that thing, that table, the gun, which was a acetylene that was cutting the channel. Somebody had to be under there, of course, in case the confounded thing went wrong at the last minute, and it didn't stop when it should.
Good night, Mr. Bond.
It came awful close, didn't it? It came awful close.
Goldfinger's shoot called for locations in 3 countries. The first scenes actually shot were in Miami at the Fontainebleau Hotel on January the 20th through the 24th, 1964. A pared-down crew shot actor Cease Linder poolside at the hotel.
I thought I'd find you in good hands.
To shoot coverage of Goldfinger's card scam, Hamilton used Michael Bosson doubling for Gert Frobe and Ignacio Almagro doubling for Connery. The Miami shoot also included the car-crushing sequence.
When we destroyed a brand new Lincoln Continental being crushed, the whole unit was speechless, all of us, because it was like part of ourselves being destroyed. I never forget it.
In April, filmmakers recreated the Fontainebleau pool area on Pinewood's D stage to complete the scene. Ian Fleming visited the set during filming of this sequence. Little more than a month before Goldfinger was released and Bond mania kicked into high gear, Bond's creator passed away August the 12th, 1964. Filmmakers shot Bond trailing Goldfinger in Switzerland's Furka Pass, but used Black Park, a British recreation area just outside Pinewood, for the night chase scenes. For 9 days in May, the Goldfinger unit took over the world-class Stoke Poges golf course, a normally tranquil set of links located just minutes from Pinewood Studios. Here, Connery's 3-decade love affair with the game of golf began. In August, the filmmakers raced to complete a key sequence, the aerial assault on Fort Knox.
The Bonds annually seem to open in, I've forgotten, was September the 15th or something, and whether we were finished or not was immaterial. Time is running very, very short, and 3 of us went over to Kentucky. Cubby Broccoli, Ted Moore, the cameraman, myself. Right next door to Fort Knox, there is an army base. And Ted and I flew around, zooming on whatever these people were doing. We didn't tell them we were coming, we just did it. We got a squad, a sergeant, and we ran these soldiers round, and I set them up in all the places I could remember. And I said, now what you do is, when I blow the whistle once, you all look up there. When I blow the whistle twice, you all fall down dead. And they thought this was the silliest thing that they had ever been asked to do in their born days. But we said, you know, you're all going to get $10 and a beer, for $10 and a beer. But by now we're opening in 3 weeks' time, practically. Extra people were engaged for the dubbing, for the music laying, the tracks and everything.
John Barry scored scenes fresh from the cutting room, producing incredible work in record time. In fact, there was only one last-minute change. Harry Saltzman decided the bomb countdown needed to end not with 3 seconds remaining as scripted, but at 007. The change gave the film one of its biggest laughs.
What kept you?
Guy Hamilton's tongue-in-cheek, high-thrills directorial style helped make Goldfinger a spectacular success, changing all action-adventure films that followed. His approach was simple.
We're going to take you to wonderful places. We're going to show you beautiful girls. We're going to have some suspense. We're going to have some laughs. But let's enjoy.
The huge international success of Goldfinger was due to innovative filmmakers and hundreds of tremendously talented technicians who pooled their skills, knowledge, and sense of adventure to create a film which continues to thrill and entertain generations of filmgoers.